When did I start making music? When did I start making music? I think I annoyed my parents a lot when I was very tiny, very little girl, making music, or what I thought was music. And I would sing the same thing over and 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 over
Do you want to tell us what it is?
until my mother would scream. I think probably that was why I did it.
What did you sing?
I don't anything.
I did the same thing, but I pulled all of my mom's pots and pans out of the cabinet, and then just sat there and banged on them and yelled as loud as I could.
Yeah, pretty much.
So not really in my diaper, because I was out of diapers pretty early, but that's another interview.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So not much has changed for either of you then.
No, not much has changed.
Debbie, when you started your career, was there anything that you found particularly difficult to overcome, which would be specific to a female band singer?
Yeah. Problems that are specific to a female band singer. I think at the time there was a lot of resistance to, girls, women being in bands. A lot of resistance to that. Primarily, I think girls were expected to either be in cabaret or backup singers to guys. And except for, the front women in rock and roll, you could probably count on one hand at that time.
Wow.
Yeah,
Awesome.
just about, right?
Yeah, because I just saw a picture of you in the Stilettos. Was that the name of the band? Yeah. And I thought that looked kind of shocking for the time.
It was.
The three kind of punkish girls up front.
Yeah.
Huh. All right.
This light keeps going. Debbie, do you think that the public reacts differently to a female-fronted rock band than to a male-fronted rock band?
Yeah, I think that there's a definite difference between fans for a female-fronted band than for a male-fronted band. And generally, I think, all male bands are, if they're really rock bands, are more aggressive for the most part. I think there's a few female lead singers like Wendy O. Williams was, she was pretty far out, pretty aggressive. But still, she worked on a sort of a burlesque kind of level. I don't know if there'll ever be sort of a non-difference. I assume there'll always be a difference. It doesn't really bother me. Viva!
Do you think the Dave Matthews Band is aggressive?
No, I don't consider that really a rock band.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
Sorry, Dave.
All right.
Debbie, were you ever told to change or maintain your image by the record company at the height of Blondie's success?
No, but I think record companies, once they have decided on a marketing strategy and have any kind of success with their marketing strategy, they don't want you to change. They don't want you to grow as an artist or, do anything different. It was very unusual to see, how some artists overcame that, and really put it to good use. But I think David Bowie was one of the most successful at it.
One of the most successful females at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And making all those changes, but he was good at marketing himself. So it was always, with, all the musical cues were in place that, explained his, imagery and why he would change. It was a total story. It was a totality, which was, of course, brilliant.
As a follow-up, given that you were, and still are, a highly intelligent woman, were you ever told to keep that side of you slightly under wraps for fear of detracting from your physical beauty?
Other than the time that they came after me with a straitjacket, no.
Come on.
I can give a funny answer.
answer?
Yeah.
I like that she had to preface it that it was funny. Am I ruining your interview tips?
I don't mind being critiqued.
Don't.
Debbie, did you feel completely in control of your image, music, and career at the time and in retrospect?
Yes, I think I did. I mean, I think that it was more of an exploration for me. I think that I wasn't dead set on anything. You know, I was experimenting and finding my way through, you know, different ideas. And I wasn't, it wasn't like I called up my stylist and said, what do we do next? You know, and, you know, it was just sort of like, oh, you know, it was kind of like the blind leading the blind in a way. I was just, you know, I was only following orders from God knows where.
But you didn't get any pressure from them to be like, do this, do that, look this way, be, you know.
At first, no. I mean, I think in this country it was sort of not really happening, and in Britain it was, you know, they were sort of, I don't know, they were just, it was like the carryover from the swinging 60s, you know, they were really into all this stuff, and, you know, it was a whole different approach over there. I mean, the approach has obviously gone worldwide, but at that time, you know, I think they have a certain acceptance of idiosyncratic behavior and neuroses and stuff like that, and I think they really like that stuff in the arts. They really
Over
appreciate
there.
Yeah.
Not so much here.
Not so much here.
Okay.
They really appreciate it, and they value it, and they sort of encourage it. You know, they nudge, you know, that kind of stuff. But I think it's really a treasure.
This question's for Debbie and Barb. Were you ever treated differently from the rest of the band at all for being a woman?
Barb?
You get your own room on the road all the time. Most of the time, anyway. Treated differently? I mean, well, of course, obviously, but treated differently by the band or treated differently
The question is treated differently from the rest of
from the rest of the band? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, it's they want to do more pictures and more stories. I think obviously more interviews, more feature the person who's the, you know, the female lead singer more, I would say. Yeah, so definitely. I had two situations. One, I was the saxophone player in an all male band. I almost said all male review. That could happen too. And yeah, that was, you know, it was a special thing. So of course, you know, the camera went there, but I wasn't the lead singer of that band, so the lead singer got focused on in a different way. And then in another band I was the lead singer, and always the lead singer gets picked, but I'm not sure if it's because of a female or not. What do you think?
I think that it's the same I mean, it's no different being in a band than it is being in a job in an office. I think it just runs right through everything. It's the same. So there's definitely a difference. And a lot of it has to do with hormones, really, when you come right down to it. Or it really has to do with old Mother Nature. And that's not going to change.
Right, but I was just thinking that question pertaining to an all-male band. I mean, Bono gets more photos and more interviews.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Freddie Mercury would have gotten more, you know. It's
Lead singers always get more.
Yeah,
Some people always do.
lead singers always get more. So I'm not sure if that's a specific female thing, but they do tend to, you know.
Look, Tina Weymouth was the bass player in Talking Heads. Did she get more press?
Not really.
No.
No, not really. Good point. All right.
Barb, you've had a lot of success as a musician, most notably in Gutter Boy and Itchy Triggerfinger, and also as a producer, producing artists such as Rufus Wainwright and Blondie. When and why did you switch from performing to producing?
why did I switch from performing to producing? Well, Debbie talked me into getting on stage once in the last in the recent past, but I did, I did a while of being on the road and a lot of shows, and played some really big shows that were really fulfilling, and had a lot of fun doing it, and there's a lot of gratification from it. But then something shifted the more I started being a songwriter and producing in the studio. I just felt, maybe it's the introvert in me. I know that doesn't seem right, but I just like being a studio rat. I like being inside in the cocoon all night, making, experimenting with things and not having to be on all the time. When you're on stage, you have to be on all the time. Everybody's watching. In the studio, you can do it with your pants off. Sorry.
We try to encourage her not to take her pants off, but sometimes it's difficult.
What do you mean we? I don't encourage her not to take her pants off at all.
She meant we as far as her.
In the studio.
The royal we.
Yeah.
That should work out.
There aren't as many female producers as there are male producers. Why do you think this is? Do you think there should be more support for women who want to get into producing?
I think there should be more support for women that want to get into producing, and I don't really know why there aren't. I really don't know the answer to that, but there are a handful of awesome female producers. Sheryl Crow's awesome. Linda Perry's awesome. Missy Elliott is awesome.
Can I interject something here?
Yeah.
I think a lot of female artists, that are in control of their lives and their artistry at a certain level in their careers, contribute a lot to their own production. And I don't know, it takes a special kind of personality to have the ability, have the talent to do it all, and to sit back and let an artist do it themselves, because a lot of times a producer is actually a better artist than the artist.
Also, I would like to add, and I'm not sure if this is a male-female thing, but I think a really, really big part of being a good producer is communication.
Yeah.
And, kind of like trying to figure out what the artist is the message they're trying to put out.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure if that's a male-female thing or anything, but I think that, my business partner, Chaz, is really good at that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little girly, though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Barb, you've just written and produced Debbie Harry's latest solo album. Why do you think Debbie chose you to work on her music?
Wow.
How embarrassing.
Well, the way it happened was we did a remix. Oh, actually, no, we did a song called God Save New York for a mutual friend of ours who's very talented, Miss Guy. And then Debbie heard that, and then she wanted us to work on this remix for her of In the Flesh, and that went swimmingly. And then I guess she just liked me.
Yes, I did. I had fun, and I felt awed by the Super Buddha talent floating through the room. No, it was really great fun, and I wanted to do some more. And they played me some of their tracks that they had worked with other people, and songs that they had actually written and contributed to. So I just felt like, gee, this should be, we should give this a try. Because after having worked with the band for so many years, production as a solo artist was a little bit different for me. And on my other solo albums, I don't know if I had as much input into the songs, and I don't know if I was encouraged actually to have as much input or expected to have as much input. And this seemed like a part of an automatic part of the equation with that, I would be relied upon to really come up with the goods.
It's interesting because me and Chaz are always really shocked when we hear that stuff.
What stuff?
What you just said.
Oh.
Because what's the point of being a producer if you're not going to actually make the artist sound like the artist? Maybe it has to do with the fact that me and Chaz were both lead singers in bands, so we understand the struggle of it.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't understand. I never really understood these producers that are like, you're going to sound like me. And it's
Exactly.
like, what's the point? I'm here to make you sound more like you and to help you sound like you.
Well, that's what good producers do. They, they're free. They encourage that. That's what they want. But, people that are insecure have to, put their thumbprint on things. And sort of that's, one of the bad things that used to happen with A&R guys at labels is that, they many times were frustrated, musicians that, didn't make it in their band or whatever, and they got into the industry that way. And, where they would come into a session and say, oh no, the bass line is wrong and stuff like that. And it was out of an, displaced or misplaced ego, instead of being chill. And that is the struggle. I mean, that's often the struggle within band members themselves, that they, can't step back, get let another ego rise up to the surface there, It's a delicate balance.
You know how many A&R people it takes to screw in a light bulb?
No.
I don't know. What do you think?
No, I don't know. No, I don't know.
You answered the first half of this question already, which was why you chose Barb to be your collaborator on your latest solo record. Is there anything more you'd like to add about that in particular?
That was the answer to
Very
that.
articulate. We appreciate that. Very multidimensional.
No, but I'm glad I did.
We don't get along.
I'm glad I did, and I think that we've come up with some really great songs, and we had a great time doing it. And except for the coffee late at night, which is oftentimes despicable and gut-wrenching, but good.
Is there anything you feel you can express differently as a solo artist that you're unable to do as a band?
No, not so much anymore. I think there was a certain time when I perhaps really felt that way. The only difference is that I have complete control.
Well, careful, I'm in there.
What?
Huh?
No, I do get to do a bigger variety of styles, perhaps.
But
and
not funny music.
not funny music. I'm not allowed to do funny music.
In our studio.
This one.
She can do that somewhere else.
The difference between the female and male producers that I worked with.
In their attitude towards music?
No, I don't think so.
Debbie and Barb, do you think there's a serious lack of female rock musicians? If so, why do you think this might be?
I don't think there's a lack of female rock musicians. I think that there's a lot happening now. And I mean, like Debbie was just saying, when she started, there weren't so many. But when I was coming up, there were always chicks in bands. Always. Like, we always played on bands with other, female-fronted bands or all-girl bands. I mean, there was the Lunachicks at the time. There was Sex Pod at the time. New York was full of really cool, all-girl punk bands, all-girl rock bands. There was Candy Ass, Pretty Boys. It's a bunch of cool all-girl bands and girl-fronted bands. I mean, I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, but there were a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that women have to fit into certain stereotypes in order to succeed?
No, I don't. I don't think so.
We're pretty stereotypical, you and me.
Yes, totally.
Is there a big difference in touring solo rather than touring with Blondie?
Yeah, for me, in the last solo tour for Necessary Evil, was I didn't feel as comfortable with that band. I mean, I feel very comfortable with Blondie. I feel very comfortable working with Chris, having Chris around since we've been partners for so long. He's a great friend, and it's great to have people like that around you when you're on the road. People that I was working with were perfectly talented and very nice guys, but they were veritable strangers to me. I just started working with them for this at one thing, and that was pretty much it. I think I learned a lot doing that. I think I learned a lot about myself, and I think I learned about, what I would do if I were to ever do that again. Not to say that I ever really want to do that again, but you never know what's going to happen.
What advice would you give anyone who wants to get into the rock and music industry? Would your advice be different for a woman?
This is the last question, isn't it?
Second to last.
Okay.
I would say go into computer science. Unless you were so, such an obviously talented person that that's all you had.
I agree. Because it's a drive that you can't fight if you really have it. But if you're just like, all of a sudden, just like, oh, maybe I want to be on MTV, it's just make sure that you're doing it for the right reason, that's all.
Yeah.
Would that advice be any different for a woman than for a man?
No.
Last, what would the slogan be on your t-shirt right now?
On my t-shirt says, Complete Satisfaction, 1980. Kiss. Okay. You can't see the satisfaction, but it's down here.
I don't think they meant literally, but I think we'll end it with that.
Okay.
Great.